okay.
It's okay. I'm honored to be here. I always enjoy talking to Civil War roundtables because you guys probably know more about this stuff than I ever will. You really do the in-depth research. I have a particular angle that I follow. Basically, I write about spies, and my fascination started with Bell Boyd and the Confederate Secret Service. And actually, both of these books are part of a much larger narrative, more along the lines of what Larry McMurtry did with Lonesome Dove. And what it is, it's the Confederate Secret Service, which is also the Confederate Navy. And I haven't gotten to the Confederate Navy yet, because we're still in 1861, 1862 time frame. But what happened was, originally I started out to write one book. I got to page 875 on the first draft, and the little boy said, wait a minute, you're going to have to cut this down. So went back, revised, cut, revised, and I came up with The Shenandoah Spy, which is about the first year of Bell Boyd's career, which is still in print, by the way, and which we have available today if you want it. The new book, which is not officially out until October 6th, is called The Queen of Washington. This one is about Rose Greenhow. Now, I had a bunch of contemporaneous material I cut from the first book about Rose because she was working at the same time Bell was, but people found going back and forth between the two characters too confusing. And then I started looking at Rose's career and some of the things that were said about her, and Anne Blackman's excellent biography of her that was published a couple of years ago, which had a bunch of new information. And I started looking at San Francisco, 1850. She was out here, and she was somehow involved with a fellow named Jose Yves Lamontour. You may have heard of the Lamontour land claims. She testified at the trial where they were later declared the most audacious fraud in history. It sort of got me looking at something else that was said about her by Jesse Benton Fremont, who was a social rival of hers and her husband's. John C. Fremont was the guy who opened the West and was this great explorer and so forth. Her husband, Robert Greenhow, had written a book called The History of California and Oregon, which was basically partially fact and partially an argument against the British claims to own Oregon. And you may remember the whole 54-40-year fight thing and all of that. I think when you look at the Civil War, you really have to look at the years before to really understand what went on and why it happened. Then I started looking at the role of the British and the French. And the proposition advanced by Jesse Benton Fremont that Rose was actually working for the French, even before the Mexican War. She claimed to have been hired by James Buchanan when he was Secretary of State to translate documents from Mexico that they would not give to Robert Greenhow, whose job was to do that. He was the translator and librarian for the Department of State. Okay, he's compromised, and obviously, there was something to this because he suffered a big demotion. First, they gave him this job going to Mexico to look at the land claims there, and then they allowed him finally to become the associate, not the main guy, but the associate law counsel for the California Land Claims Commission out here, 1850 to 1854, after which he supposedly died. Actually, in real life, he died, and in my novel, something else happened. And this is where I slid over into alternative history, because I came up with a theory that was sort of irresistible to write about. You know, what happened to Robert Greenhow? How did his marriage fall apart? How did he end up in San Francisco with Rose playing power games back in Washington, D.C.? Why? Well, this is the first thing I ever learned about writing. When you write fiction or any kind of narrative like this, first question you ask is, what would happen if? What would happen if Rose were a spy? If Rose was a spy, then Robert's a spy. Robert's betraying his country, so is Rose. But on the other hand, Rose is a disciple of John C. Calhoun, who wants to split the country up anyway. He died in about 1849, 1850, I believe. And she nursed him on his deathbed. He started going back